You probably can't see, and that's probably for the best, but there's a covering over here. It's about to fall off, so I'm going to have to fix it. See, that's why there's this wonderful relationship that has nothing to do with how attractive nobody cares about. So, read it! Shows just how small you are, but what we should be, what the American goal is. So, Matt Walsh is frankly a bully. I'm definitely not a fan because he does exactly what the left that he makes fun of do. He literally brainwashes children, writes propaganda to brainwash children. He makes fun of the other side and calls them dumb and stupid, and also believes that dumb and stupid people should not be allowed to vote, therefore eliminating 90% of Democrats. So he kind of wants to establish a one-party system in America. He's basically using the progressives' tactics to combat the progressives. But I take personal offense at this video because it asks the question, why are people trying to be ugly? Proceeds to show one TikTok
Okay, well, if you couldn't see there because you're listening to the audio podcast, she chopped her hair off, she put on weight, and she stuck piercings all over her face.
I don't think older men should be commenting or criticize the appearances of young girls. Enough said.
Whether this assigned female at birth person identifies as a girl or not.
I feel comfortable commenting on the transformation because she's apparently quite proud of it, proud enough to advertise it on social media.
As somebody who understands how young girls feel a little bit, I don't think that's actually what she's trying to do. Like before, she had this sort of mask of like feminine and pretty and conforming to societal expectations, but I think now her physical appearance reflects how she feels on the inside. Her physical appearance shows pain and nonconformity, and I think she feels like she doesn't fit in, and she also is in a lot of pain. So no, I don't think it's actually celebrating her new appearance. I think it's now letting everyone know who knew her before and said, oh, you looked so pretty before. Well, she wasn't happy then, and she isn't happy now, but now you can tell.
I want to put a trigger warning right here because Matt Walsh says some unnecessarily harsh things about the person's appearance, and I want to include them in my arguments, but I also don't want people to have to hear them if they would be hurt by it. So, you've been warned.
Her feminine appearance is gone in favor of this androgynous, mutilated look. She is certainly uglier now, much uglier.
He equates ugliness with a lack of femininity, which I take personal offense to. I mean, here are some photos that I took within the past couple of months. And Matt Walsh, if you're watching, can you say that this is not beautiful? Can you say that this is not pretty? I mean, this is not feminine. It may not even be masculine, it might be more androgynous, but I objectively might argue that this is somewhat pleasing to the eye. You don't have to be feminine to be beautiful or handsome.
A woman is most beautiful when she most looks like a woman. That's one of the reasons why morbid obesity is not beautiful on a woman or on anybody. Not only is it deadly and lethal and unhealthy and self-destructive, but it also detracts from, it literally covers up the feminine traits that make a woman beautiful.
What exactly makes a woman feminine? Is it the way she dresses? Is it the color she wears? Is it her attitude or behavior? Is it her length of hair? And it sounds like he's talking about that hourglass figure, since that is whom he's attracted to. But, he's married and shouldn't actually be attracted to other women, right? He's a father, he's got children, he's got a wife. Please stay away from other women, because I can relate to this. My dad is a little bit similar to Matt Walsh, except he's more, accepting and understanding and open-minded. But he does get annoyed when I
don't dress feminine.
And when I am wearing something like leggings or maybe a slightly tighter shirt, he's like,
oh, I like the way you look today.
Okay, well, not a tighter shirt. That's not what I meant. Don't worry, my dad is not creepy. My dad is awesome and amazing, and I want to be just like him. But he's complaining that I'm not being feminine enough. It is usually related to my curves, but he doesn't actually talk about that. And that bothers me because I actually have dysphoria about, any convex shape on my body. Stop telling women to be feminine and to show off their curves. For the rest of the video, he talks about how buildings have become uglier, art has become uglier, and music has become uglier, as well as people in general.
The conclusion of the video is
people, especially the left, has tried to destroy truth. The problem is with this video is that A, he makes a bunch of subjective claims, and B, he doesn't really defend any of them. His reasoning is that beauty and truth are synonymous, and the left is trying to erase truth. I don't think truth and beauty are necessarily the same things, because truth is usually objective and beauty is usually subjective. However, there are kind of standards within beauty, which is why I think it is true nowadays. People are actually moving towards ugliness. To the buildings statement I wanted to say.
Our ancestors built palaces and cathedrals. We build really big shoeboxes. We live in the shoeboxes, we work in them, we go to church in them.
We live in a society where there's a greater demand for space, and it's easier to fit a bunch of compact shoeboxes together than it is to fit a bunch of cathedrals and Notre Dames and Taj Mahals. We want to make room for people in this world because people are ultimately more important than beautiful buildings.
Also, there will never be another Notre Dame, so don't rebuild it. I mean, we saw this in the book of Ezra when the Jews tried to rebuild the Temple of Jerusalem. It made people weep because it wasn't as beautiful as it was before.
Criticisms aside, I actually do think Matt Walsh was onto something in this video.
If you actually have eyes,
You could probably tell that our cultural aesthetic has shifted to a more broken, ugly, artificial style. That a big problem with his argument was that, even though he's Catholic, he did not include God in it, and I think God is a very important factor. As our society shifts further and further away from God, it's going to shift further and further away from beauty.
because God is the author of beauty.
And when people reject God, and when people reject God's morals, they also reject God's beauty. I want to be careful with what I say because I can't tell you what's beautiful, only you can decide what's beautiful to you. However, what we consider beautiful now is not what we considered beautiful before. Aesthetics, such as chains, dark makeup, scraggly hair, neon colors, colors that don't fit together, clothing that doesn't fit together, clothing in different shapes. And embracing insecurities, that's a big one, and I will get into that. Now, I want to be careful with what I say about things like piercings and makeup. I think makeup can be seen as beautiful when it's emulating a natural face.
So some people use makeup to make their eyes bigger, to make their nose look slightly smaller, or to cover up blemishes.
It can look beautiful because it is imitating a natural or perfect face. Is we're seeing makeup that either makes your nose look way smaller and your lips look way bigger and your eyes look way bigger, which is kind of pushing the beauty and more going into the macabre, or you're seeing like blood makeup, scar makeup, clown makeup, unnatural makeup that makes faces look unnatural, and we're now calling that beauty. Body piercings and jewelry, like including nose piercings and lip piercings and earrings, that can actually be beautiful if it expresses the naturalness of the face. Like if your attention is not drawn to the piercings necessarily, but earrings in your ears can give your ears a little pop. An earring in your nose can give your nose a little pop. Example, Ezekiel 16:11-12, God says when addressing Israel as his bride, I adorned you with jewelry. I put bracelets on your arms and a necklace around your neck. And I put a ring on your nose, earrings on your ears, and a beautiful crown on your head.
So are Christians not allowed to wear jewelry?
No, of course not.
Even God considers that beautiful. A lot of the piercings now they actually do have a destructive feature. Again, I don't want to say what's beautiful and what isn't beautiful,
But that is going for the more abstract.
it's taking away the natural beauty of the face and reaching the more mutilated. And I think there are two main reasons for this. One is rebellion. People are rebelling from God. Romans 1:21-22. For although they knew God, they neither glorified him as God nor gave thanks to him. But their thinking became futile, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools. So people recognize the laws or standards of beauty that God had created, meaning, natural, bright, vibrant, to recreate their own beauty. And I think that is rebellion from God.
Reflective of.
A cultural shift of morality away from God. So what is a consequence of beauty and morality that shifts away from God? Well, Romans 1:28-32. Furthermore, just as they did not think it worthwhile to retain the knowledge of God, so God gave them over to a depraved mind, that they do what ought not to be done. They have become filled with every kind of wickedness, evil, greed, depravity. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, and malice. They are gossips, slanderers, God-haters, insolent, arrogant, and boastful. They invent ways of doing guilt. They disobey their parents. They have no understanding, no fidelity, no love, no mercy. Although they know God's righteous decree that those who do such things deserve death, they not only continue to do these very things, but also approve of those who practice them. So I don't think that putting a lot of piercings on your face is going to lead you to break all of God's commandments, but both are products of rebellion from God, rebelling against his beauty and also rebelling against his character.
I want to clarify that I don't think it's a sin to have a lot of piercings or to wear all black or to have an uneven haircut. I don't think the verse from Leviticus saying, do not mar your body or do not tattoo yourself is currently applicable. I mean, you can interpret it personally how you wish. If you want to, get a lot of different piercings or wear clothes that are
Unnatural.
I'm not going to judge you, and if I do accidentally judge you, you can judge me for trying to impersonate a Victorian boy. All I'm doing really with this video is to augment Matt Walsh's argument, because he's confused why there is so much ugliness in the world, or maybe he's just not willing to say, and he also did a very bad job of, explaining it and spent most of the time just complaining about things he didn't like, and I do a little bit of that in this video as well. I try to edit that out, but I'm really mostly just trying to answer Matt Walsh's question. I think a movement toward the unnatural is a product of rebellion, but I don't think that the dark aesthetic itself is sin.
I think another reason we're seeing a trend towards the macabre is because people are broken and people are hurting, and more people are developing mental illnesses. There's a lot more pain in this world, and people are expressing that outwardly. But we've seen a trend of art get darker and darker and more disturbing or more abstract as we see the world through the eyes of a crazy person, a depressed person.
And that is also a product of sin.
Humans have chosen sin from the very beginning, and a consequence of man's sin is that the world is going to get worse. And we can escape part of this darkness by accepting Jesus into our hearts as our Savior. We can experience eternal life now by our relationship with Christ. This doesn't spare us from all the pain, but it does give us a strong source of help and comfort for us to rely on. A lot of these people who reject God do experience pain and have nothing to rely on. There was this girl in my class who said that she used to deal with her pain by writing it down. But ever since she turned 18, she has dealt with her pain through stabbing her face or her ears. Obviously, it was a euphemism for nose piercings and ear piercings, but I think it does have some truth behind it. C.S. Lewis is a theologian who a lot of Christians regard as practically the 14th apostle after Paul the Apostle. No, not really. But he did have a lot of wise things to say about God and theology and the Bible in general. So he says, the Christian and the materialist hold different beliefs about the universe. They can't both be right. The one who is wrong will act in a way which simply doesn't fit the real universe. Consequently, the best will in the world, he will be helping his fellow creatures to their destruction. So with this trend to embrace beauty that is not natural, that is artificial, or that is broken, is just an effect of what we're seeing as people's choices and people's beliefs are leading to a destruction of humanity. And embracing insecurities, that's a big one, and I will get into that.
Okay, so I cut about
15 minutes of
me rambling about bodily insecurities out of the video, but I have a duty to fulfill that I promised you earlier in the video.
So I'm gonna give some quick thoughts.
Part of the reason we're seeing an embrace of especially being overweight is being overweight is the biggest issue. Part of that is laziness and no motivation to take care of the body that God gave you.
Vaping.
Another one is vaping, actually, beautifying vaping, even though it is an addiction. Part of it is a laziness to not want to get better. I think the biggest reason, though, and that I can't really complain about, is because, people who are overweight get bullied all their lives. There is something to be said about, their family would be concerned about them being overweight, but a lot of it is just bullying and disgust from the general public. In order to regain their self-confidence, these individuals embrace their condition, embrace being overweight, or whatever else they might have.
A lot of this broken aesthetic, this pain aesthetic, again, this is something that only a Christian would see. When you are glorifying and beautifying pain, you are in a way being humanistic. You are saying broken people is the standard, not this natural design made by God. No, this human standard of being broken. That is now the standard of beauty.
There's something to be said about giving thanks during all times to God and to appreciate the dark moments in life that bring you closer to God, but that's not what these people are doing.
Okay, so the conclusion of this, beauty doesn't matter. If you like multiple piercings, go for multiple piercings. You like to wear contact lenses that make your eyes a different color. If you like to wear a lot of makeup that makes your face look unnatural,
Go for it.
There's literally nothing in the Bible that says you shouldn't do it.
However, I think this trend towards ugliness and trying to glorify the broken, it marks the era we live in, an era that is rebelling against God, an era that embraces laziness, and an era that embraces the broken. without bothering you.